Hi, I'm John, and today's video will be a little different. Today, using this GX Material Yamcha, I'm going to show you how to turn it from this into this using panel liners and a matte clear coat. No paint required. It's a really easy way to take your figures to the next level. I've done it a lot of times, and it really gives all my figures an extra pop with a lot of patience, but not too much skill. This will be a step-by-step tutorial, so follow along or skip ahead using the chapter markers below. This is my first tutorial, so please leave a comment below to let me know whether or not this helped and what I can do to make it better. Here's the list of everything you're going to need, starting with Tamiya panel line accent color in brown, pink brown, black, and gray. Then you'll need enamel paint thinner. I'm personally using Tamiya X20 thinner. You'll also need a matte acrylic clear coat. This one I'm using is from DecoArt. In terms of tools, you'll need pointed Q-tips, a couple of paint brushes, and most importantly, a ventilator mask or respirator. I'm using this P95 mask, and make sure you wear this and do this in a well-ventilated room, like having a window open, as these panel liners and thinners emit fumes. All of these are linked below in the description, so please go and check it out. This Yamcha figure, along with the rest of the GX Material line, are perfect test subjects for using panel liners because there are a lot of details sculpted into this figure, and you can see it underneath the eyes, in the chest, little lines on the clothes, in the folds of the pants. But nothing really makes it pop because these prize figures really don't have a lot of shading, if at all. So adding panel liners here will really give it that anime look, making the figure look a lot more defined without having to repaint the entire thing. And as I turn the figure around in camera, you might not be able to see it, but there is a slight shine to the figure, meaning that this is the figure's molded plastic color and it's not painted. Using the matte clear coat will give it an appearance of it being painted without having to paint the entire figure over again. I have a couple disclaimers before I get started. First, this tutorial is geared towards adults. The panel liners and thinners do emit fumes and are flammable, so please wear a mask, work in a well-ventilated room, and keep these out of the reach of children. Secondly, check to make sure your figure's plastic is compatible with these panel liners. They work great with PVC and ABS figures like these, and sometimes there's a description of what the figure is made of on the side of the box. For example, for my SH Figuarts Goku figure, I wasn't sure how the liners would react on the figures, so I used it on the hands, underneath the belt, and underneath one of the pant folds to make sure it didn't react with the plastic. And with that out of the way, let's go to the desk and get started. Okay, so let's get started. Normally I would pull apart the figure if I'm going to do a full repaint, but since we're just sort of finishing it up with some panel liner, we don't need to do that. So yeah, just putting it apart like this is just good enough. We'll start with brown. You have to give it a good shake because some of the granules will sit at the bottom there. So give it a good shake. And then what you're gonna do is have a little bit of tissue on the side. And when you open it, there is already a brush inside the bottle. So yeah, you can just go straight from here. There's going to be quite a bit of excess on there, so you just sort of dip it on the side here just to sort of get rid of some of the excess. And then you pick it up, and we'll get started with his shirt. And you just want to put it into all of the lines and crevices. Okay, so sometimes you'll have a little bit of excess like that. That's okay. Just take a Q-tip and it'll suck some of that out. There you go. Don't even have to wipe it. Just sort of let the liquid just flow into the tip of the Q-tip. And just keep going. All around. And you can already tell before we even try cleaning up the lines
that this is really going to make a big difference. So going from this half to this side, lines, no lines. You just continue to do that on all the little crevices. Sometimes you can find like just some of the deep parts of the shirt. You could also put some of that in there too, but you don't have to do that. And how this works, again, is there's little granules inside of, I guess, the enamel paint or whatever the solvent is. When you apply it, the granules will sort of sift to the deepest parts of the line, and then the rest of the liquid sort of just dries out. So that's sort of how it works. I think that looks pretty good. A little bit more here. Boom. Done. I will also do the face since we're already here. I use it in the lines in between the eyes. On the eyebrows, the lines underneath the eyes. And normally I would also use it to line the actual eyes as well, but this figure already has outlines around his eyes, so I'm not going to do it this time. And then I'll do under his chin, under his nose, give him little nostrils, on the bridge of his nose, to make sure I've got all the dots filled in. And I'll even do a little bit around his mouth, and I will get a little bit of the excess here. Typically you can clean it up really well with the X20 thinner, but sometimes with the white it stains a little bit, so I try not to be sloppy. Yeah, and sometimes if you feel like, you know, there's not enough in a particular spot, then you can just go back and do it over again. Like I'm looking at some of the spots here and I feel like I could do a little bit more. Right here. There we go. I miss a spot there. Alright, now we're done. Moving down to the legs. And you really want to just aim for at least like the deepest crevices possible. Sometimes if they're too superficial, when you clean up the lines, the granules won't stick. Pretty much if they're sort of deep, like all of these here, they will stay. And again, it's okay to be a little sloppy since we're going to be cleaning up the lines a little bit more later anyway. Yep, see I got a little excess there again. Here's a Q-tip. Just dip it out there. Sort of cleans that line right up. And the great thing about these panel liners is that, you know, they may be $8 to $10 a bottle, but they'll last you forever. I've already had this for about 2 years now, and I still have most of the bottle left. It doesn't seem to end. Okay, I think we're just about done with the brown, so we'll let this dry, and we'll put the lower body aside for now. We'll bring back the upper body. This will probably be dry by now, yeah. And now we'll move on to doing pink brown for the rest of the shading. So you gotta shake it up. You know, basically just do the same thing for this, but now in the skin and muscle areas. You do have the option, I mean, it's your figure, you can do whatever you want. But if you want a more intense look, you can still use brown on on the skin instead. I have found that the pink brown does a nice subtle job with the shading. So that's my preferred color. Sometimes if you want to add like some extra shading, so maybe around the edge of the shirt, put some brown in there to make it look like the shirt is lifted a little bit. And you even do the fingernails and the little folds in his hands too. Oh shoot. Yeah, you can see it really even just defines the finger nails a little bit too. Closer. As well as the knuckles. So okay, so I'll pause here. You can definitely take a look. The difference between this hand and this hand, that there's like a significant difference. And again, we haven't even cleaned it up yet. I'm already happy with how this one looks. Okay, and I'll speed through this arm until we move to the next color. Okay, I think that pretty much covers that. And like I said before, what I'm gonna do is to add a little extra shading, or the appearance of shading, between his shirt and his skin. I'm going to just add a little bit of brown here. And not a lot. And you know what? Might not do much, but I'll put a little bit of brown here too. We're just going to switch back and forth while we wait for the part to dry. Going on to the blue, I'll be using black panel liner. This is like a deep blue, so the black is a little bit more appropriate for this. Let's say you're dealing with like this shade of blue here. What you can do is take some thinner and black and have a little mixed combination of it, and that'll create like a thinned out black. It's not quite gray. If you use the gray panel liner on here, it's sort of like using gray paint, so it won't look good. but by using some thinner and some black panel liner together, it gives you like a nice heavy black look. So this is like a before and after. This isn't the same figure, but yeah, mixing together thinner and black and going over these light blue parts, you get sort of this color here. And I'm really happy with that. Anyway, so with this darker shade of blue, we're okay with just using straight up black. Oh, I forgot to show you the container. So this is the diluted black that I have in here. I put it in a separate glass jar. So if you have like one of those jellies or honey, just wash it out and put a little mixture of thinner and black and you put it in here. And again, you could be a little bit sloppy with the application. We're just going to be cleaning it up later anyway. And you can see the black sort of goes on really heavy. That's why with the lighter shades of blue, you want to go with the diluted black. You can get behind the belt here too. Sometimes you get excess, and that's what happens when you don't wipe off the excess on the tissue. You make a mess like I do. The key to all of it is just to be really patient and, you know, take your time. Find all the lines and just fill them in. It's like coloring with crayons. You won't really see this part here once we put the figure back together, but I do like to do this to add a little extra depth sometimes. Sometimes it won't make a difference, but sometimes it does. So yeah, just gotta go for it. Okay, and then also just do the same thing for the shoes. And even the bottom of these shoes here, they're dark gray. There is a dark gray panel liner available, but I don't think that it will show well on here, so I just go for the straight black. And here you can really see the panel liners do its trick. Boom, boom, boom. Yep, just put a dot in there. This is how it's supposed to work. When you use this on a Gundam, the panel liner just soaks through the entire thing. It's incredibly satisfying. Sometimes doing it on these parts here, where like you can sort of see that there's some QC issues with the paint application on here, it can sort of help hide some of those mistakes too. So if you just put a little panel liner here. Even here, you can see that there's like a little bit of miscoloration here. And without adding any paint, you can just sort of carefully go in and just add panel liner to it. And it just sort of helps give that clear line separation from the shoe to the sock that the figure doesn't have. Again, be very careful around the white sections. It's really easy to sort of mess up. Yeah, that looks a lot cleaner already. We have more black panel liners to do on his wristbands here, so I'm going to go do that. I'll fast forward and I'll see you in the next color. Next is the last color. We're going to be using some gray on the white parts of his boots. Now we just gotta wait for it to dry, but while we're waiting, let's just see, what we got here. And I think it already looks like way better than it did before. All right, now that we've had some time to let the stuff dry, it's time to clean it up. So we'll be using our X20 enamel paint thinner here, along with our pointed Q-tips. And how to do this, I just simply dip it into the bottle and then I'll wipe off some excess. And then what I do is just run along the figure and start cleaning up some of the lines. Just go very lightly and sort of in one direction, usually like the opposite of which way the line is facing. So if the line is coming down this way, you want to sort of wipe this way, instead of going this way. That way, the lines sort of just stay where they are. And you can keep some of the little excess on there. It'll act as like free shading, as long as it doesn't look too crazy. Oh, and I did want to mention that these will start to get a little bit dirty after a while, so then you just switch to the other side or switch to a new Q-tip. You know, if I'm going to do all the brown, I'm going to try to clean all of it. And once I switch to another color, I'll switch to a new Q-tip. And if for any reason you happen to erase a line that you want to keep, then you just do it all over again. Just get a more panel liner, refill the line, and then just go a little bit lighter when you clean. I think I'm pretty satisfied with the pants. I'll move on to the shirt. Sorry. I think that looks pretty good. Now I'll move on to the face, since I also use brown on here. Go very lightly with the Q-tip on here because these lines are very shallow. So if you go too deep, it'll erase the panel liner out of the little shadow lines. But if you go light enough, you should be able to get some decent lines out of it. See, you wouldn't even notice that he has those little grinning, the little grated nose things on there if you haven't put the panel liner in there. So it adds that little pop. And you can still see that there's a little bit of panel liner around his eyes, and I sort of keep that there as like a shadow for him. So yeah, I'll leave that there. And go very lightly again around the chin. Just double checking the eyes and the teeth to make sure that I didn't get any panel liner over there. And I'll start to move on to his chest area and his neck. Oh, I missed a spot here. I'm gonna go back and do that right now. Yep, again, want to go very lightly on this part because the lines are like extra shallow. So if you push too hard against it, it's gonna erase panel liner out of the little holes, but go lightly enough, it'll still leave that good impression in there without it looking like it's dirt stuck in his fingernails or something. And again, the best thing about this is if you mess up, you just go back and do it again until you get it right. Okay, let's get started with this. All right, we'll start with the gray. I think I spilled some excess on the sock, I forgot. But we'll clean it up. And you can really tell on the white part here when your Q-tip is getting dirty, so I'm gonna have to change this out soon. All right, socks are good. Move on to the shoes. I'll start with the bottoms for that maximum satisfaction. It's a little bit of a darker shade than it was before, but to me, that's just free shading. Moving on to the top of the shoe. I mean, you can't really see it in camera, maybe, but I'll know it's there. So it's nice for me to clean it off like this. And then I'll move on to the belt. So So this Q-tip looks pretty done, so I'm going to move on to a new one. Consider the belt done. So that's pretty much the lower body. Let's finish up on top. I'll do the wristbands. Again, try to go perpendicular to the lines that you use the panel liners to. That's done. And just to go back, I'll go back to those little lines that I found earlier. All right, and that's it. Yeah, we're done with the panel liner for now. Yeah, I like it. Okay, I'm back, and we're just gonna get started on the clear coat. I did forget to mention one ingredient before, and that's water. Make sure you wet your brush before you use it. This is where the big brush comes in. I did tell you before that there was a little brush, but we ended up not needing it, so we'll just move on to here. Grab a little container, squirt some the clear coat in there. Oops, that might be too much. Anyway, yeah, and then you just apply this quite generously all over the entire figure. And that'll sort of get rid of the shine that the figure has to make it look more like you painted it on. And also there's like a slight shine to the panel liner when you put it in there. So that sort of makes everything look a little bit more uniform. Just apply this generously over the entire figure. Make sure the coat is pretty thin, but you don't really have to be too careful. It goes on a little bit white, but it dries clear, so yeah, don't have to be too precise about it. As long as you spread it around evenly, you'll be fine. If you have access to a ventilation spray box, you can also spray on some clear coat, but I figure if you're just starting out, then this is a lot cheaper and easier to do since you don't have to have that whole setup and or do this outside unless you want to. You know what, let me separate this off. Yeah, that's better. That way I can get the knee. All right, that's pretty much it on the lower body. We'll move on to the upper body. Painting hair can be so tough because these guys have all these different sides of these little triangles. Sometimes you forget to paint one of the sides and you have to go back and do it later, or at least I do. And you know what? If you're okay with the figure sort of having that shine, then you can totally leave this part off. But I think I really enjoy matte clear coat on here. I think that just about covers it. A little extra on the face just for good measure. Alright, and that's it. just going to wait for this to dry, and then we'll show off the final product.
As a reminder, here's what it looked like before, and here's the final product. I really hope that you found this helpful and that you found that customizing your figure can be really easy with just a few materials and a little bit of time. Panel liners have definitely stepped up my game, especially when doing full repaints. The great thing is that these materials will last you a really long time. You can use these on tons of different figures or model kits, and it's like you'll never run out. If you watch my other videos, you've seen that using panel liners is probably my favorite part of customizing. If you like this tutorial and would like to see more, leave a like and comment below on what you'd like to see next, or let me know what I can do better, as I'm always looking to improve. As always, I have a list of everything I used in the description below. If you purchase anything through those links, it'll help support the channel without any cost to you. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.